3, 2, 1. Podcast
time.
Podcast. Welcome back to Two Dudes Talking Motorcycles. I'm dude number 1, Gleb.
I guess I'm Gleb dude number 2.
There's
Mitch.
only one.
There's
Gleb
only one
here.
Gleb. There's only
There's
one
only one
you.
Gleb.
Yeah.
This is Mitch. I'm Gleb. And here's our socials. Well, they'll be somewhere here. Yeah. Anyways, welcome back and to episode 2. And we made some minor improvements, so hopefully it sounds a little bit better this time. We have
the idea.
stands now,
Yeah.
so we can be very close to the mic and closer to the audience.
To you.
Hello and welcome. So today our main topic is going to be MSF.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that are not familiar, MSF stands for Motorcycle Safety Foundation. And their biggest thing is promoting motorcycle safety and also offering motorcycle courses. So people looking to get into motorcycling can learn the basics, all the necessary safety stuff, and the basics of riding a motorcycle. And I think this is kind of a little bonus thing is if you're unsure about motorcycling, it's a good way to see if you actually like it or not.
Yeah. And in my research on it too, and I guess I kind of knew, but I didn't really know the extent of how much the MSF did, but they actually do a lot of research too. So it's not just learning motorcycle skills and safety. They actually provide a lot of research and statistics into motorcycle crashes and safety. I don't want to data dump it or anything throughout this. We can just kind of talk more about the MSF itself. But it was very impressive to see where they get a lot of their safety techniques. So the stuff you learn in the MSF is research based.
Yeah, I was reading through your notes earlier, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know half this stuff. So you've really done your research.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, just two little bits of motorcycle news. This month is BMW's 100-year anniversary, and they actually released 2 special edition models for this, and it is the BMW R9T and the R18 100-year anniversary editions.
What colors are those for the audio listeners? Because I can't really see it from here.
For the audio listeners, it is they're kind of about silver chromish.
Okay.
For the R9T, and the R18 has silver gas tank, about reddish brownish leather seats and chrome pipes, and the same goes for the R9T. But the cool thing I found out in the article that I read about this, the article was from Cycle World, by the way. We'll give them credit where credit is due. But the cool thing is that the first BMW motorcycle, so the idea for it, the sketch for it, and the prototype came out in 1922. Oh, yeah. So 100 years ago, and the actual production model came out in 1923, the following year. But it was a 494cc boxer twin with a shaft drive, and the gearbox is bolted into the engine, and which is basically how BMW, a good chunk of BMW motorcycles are still today. And it was air cooled. It's basically the engine that you see on the R18, the R9T, the GS, the R1250 GS, and then the R1200, the RS.
It's running strong.
Yep. So that engine has a lot of pedigree and has been around for a very long time. So I thought that was a cool little tidbit. And then in other news, KTM announced their 2 new adventure bikes, the 790 the 790 and the 890.
Okay, I was gonna.
And we have pictures here. The one on the right is this one here. Is the 890. This one's the 790.
And for the audio listeners, surprise, surprise, the KTMs, they look exactly the same as they always have.
If you know what a KTM looks like, that's what they look like. And yes, they have orange highlights in them, as KTM would have.
Well, it seems to work for them. I see a lot of them around.
Yeah. And, I hear a lot of good stuff about them. They're very well known in being pretty much off-road ready. So just some bit of information here. Let me pull it up real quick because I did not do my homework well in advance. Instead, I did it last minute. But the 790 has 95 horsepower, 65 foot-pound of torque, 790cc parallel twin. That's about equivalent to my Triumph right there.
Yeah, that's
a
pretty
slightly
nice.
Smaller engine. So
yeah,
that's actually pretty good. And I always hear one big thing about KTM bikes is that they are excellent off-road. Out of all the ADV bikes, they are the most off-road focused and do the best off-road compared
I've seen that too. And that's probably why I see so many of them actually off-road. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And for the 890, let me find the specs here real quick.
Looks like it has a TFT as well. From what we're looking,
yep, 5-inch TFT, all the good stuff. I mean, you kind of expect it from a fully spec model like this. 5.5 or 5.3 gallon fuel tank. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Should get you plenty of places. And I'm just going to go ahead and assume that it probably has all the off-road modes and gives you the ability to turn literally everything off, because KTM wouldn't have it any other way. So for the 890, you get 105 horsepower and 74 pound-feet of torque. So a little bit of a jump from the 790, and
not too bad, really.
Not too bad, and 440 pounds.
Yeah,
it's pretty light.
And I know you said you weren't sure you're going to announce it, but another bit of motorcycle news. We attended a motorcycle dealership's customer appreciation. Was that last week?
Yes, it was.
Wait, 2 weeks?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Gleb here won a motorcycle helmet.
I did win a motorcycle helmet. It was an HTC. It was one of their modular, like higher end modular ones.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. I'll take a free helmet if that's what I get. That's what I get.
Yeah,
I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, and I paid off my motorcycle, so now I'm in trouble of getting another one.
So that's the scary part.
I'm going to really try not to.
Yeah,
but
give it a year.
Well, I'll try.
So back to our main topic, and that's the Motorcycle Safety Foundation, or the Motorcycle Safety Course. And what we wanted to do is, you're going to mention a little bit of the history about it, which you kind of touched over.
I just want to pull a little bit in there because it was kind of a lot to read through. It was part of like some other like government entity or nonprofit entity that and the name changed a lot since all the way. I think the last I saw, I didn't write the note down itself, but I think like this organization, like the name and organization has been changing names like since I want to say 1914 for it was a long time.
So we're going to talk about the brief history about it, and then we're going to talk about our experience.
Yeah.
And with the motorcycle safety course, and basically just talk about like what we liked, what we didn't like, maybe some improvements, and why everyone else should take an MSF course, whether you ride or not.
Yeah. And
all right, continue with the history.
Most, if not all of this information comes directly from the MSF's website. On theirs, but so as we mentioned before, they do a lot of research. So they participate with government relations. A lot of people, as they know, they can take the MS Safety Beginners course in lieu of taking the DMVs.
Which is what I did.
Same what I did. It was nice. So that they work with like that, the government relations. They have public awareness campaigns for non-motorcyclists, as well as education, and they provide additional training for state and licensing programs from there.
Very cool.
It is national. It is a nonprofit organization, and currently it is sponsored by BMW, BRP. I don't know who that is.
That's BRP. It's what's the big side by side brand? It starts with a C.
I don't know. I don't.
BRP. It's a Canadian company, and they make a lot of different like outdoor machines and stuff like that.
But anyway, it's okay.
It's on the tip of my tongue. They also have the
watch. You're gonna remember when we're done recording.
The slingshot. Do you remember that? Like the 3-wheeled.
All I know,
or not the slingshot. What's the 3-wheeled? Like the Can-Am. Can-Am. That's the brand I was thinking of.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
BRP owns Can-Am.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Nice. All right. So anyway, BMW, BRP, Harley Davidson, Honda, Indian Motorcycles, Kawasaki, KTM, Suzuki, Triumph, and Yamaha. So pretty much all of them.
I don't see Ducati on there, which I'm not very surprised. Ducati got to get on that. Just kidding.
They can't be bothered with an American organization. No, I'm just kidding.
They probably have their own.
Ducati's in the business of going fast, ridiculously so.
Free pizza and wine because they're Italian. They're too good for us.
But yeah, so but getting into it, like the during the 1960s, as of 1960, there were fewer than 600,000 motorcycles registered in the United States. By the late 60s, most American riders they had just been learning from friends and family. It was just like, here's a bike, try it out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you fell? That sucks. But I think it was over there's over like 9 or 8 million registered bikes in the United States now.
Wow, that's quite the number.
Yeah, or maybe that could be global. I might be a little wrong.
No, I think you're probably right.
Yeah,
I feel like global there's a lot more, because especially if you consider like a lot of the Southeast Asia and stuff like that, where motorcycles are like a very primary source of transportation, or really like Latin America or like South America and stuff like that. You see, even when we went to Mexico, do you remember like seeing a lot of people riding these like tiny little? Sorry about that.
That was my fault.
Riding these little like the little 125cc like little Honda bikes they just sold at like the supermarket.
Yeah, you just pick them up like while you're
sometimes
getting
most of those
groceries.
people probably did not take an MSF course in their related country, but a lot of countries do have motorcycles as a very primary or only source of transportation, just because they're cheap, easy to get, and simple to maintain compared to a car.
Yeah.
And if it's small enough, it might not even require a license.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's basically what it kicked off. And early research is actually anecdotal. So I'm sure, you've heard it, I've heard it, motorcycle listeners have heard it, that like a lot of accidents are caused not by the rider, by vehicle operators, car drivers, truck drivers. And that was just anecdotal evidence up until like the 70s, when they actually started doing real research, and they found that, actually, for crash incidences where where they, so they are actually starting to piece together data around motorcycle crashes. So that's kind of what started it from there. And then moving on into, I want to say it was 72 or 73, they actually started to piece it together to come up with like a training course for people to take. And now one of the notes I found reading through there, with the standards and everything that they've set up, let's see. So here we are. More than 8 million motorcyclists have enrolled in the MSF rider courses since 1974. So since 74. Very cool. Then over 400,000 students take a course annually.
That's a lot.
It's not a joke. Yeah,
took it. Or 2019 for me.
Yeah. So the MSF, it's not like this little like someone's side project of a safety thing, like, oh, be safe. You see little groups like that here and there among riders, but so this is like the legitimate, big time,
recognized
organization to become safe, and it's important to do so.
One of the cool benefits is if you do take and complete an MSF course, and this is more geared towards new riders, because if you're riding one, chances are you may have already taken it, or maybe not. But you can get discounts on insurance, and even some motorcycle stores and stuff. They offer you discounts if you completed a MSF course, because they know you know how to ride. But the biggest thing is probably insurance, because I remember when I was applying for or figuring out which insurance to get for my bike, that's one of the questions they ask is, like, have you completed an MSF course? And if you click yes, it knocks down the price. Now I don't know how they verify it though, because I think mine had me like send a little photocopy of the card, but I don't remember.
Yeah, no, that's what mine was. I just had to send in, like, because you get like the certificate.
Yeah.
And for mine, because I took mine that was so close to a dealership, they were, I don't know if they do. I don't know if it was offered to you, but they actually, if you take that card to the dealership to buy your first motorcycle, there's also like additional discounts on gear and stuff.
I didn't do that because I bought mine from like a small little mom and pop, like mechanic / used bike dealer.
Gotcha.
And I already had like a fantastic price on my first bike, so I didn't even bother with that. They even knocked down like an extra like couple $100 for me when I asked them if that's the lowest price they can go. So I was like, cool, I'll take it.
Oh man, very nice. But no, that was so that's kind of like how we got here now today, like with the MSF. Again, to really just if you don't know, if you're curious about riding, it is a fully legitimate data backed course, and then on top of it, because we've only taken the basic, the basic riders course, BRC.
Yes.
Yeah. But they also offer, once you hit a certain number of hours on your bike, you can go take an intermediate course, an advanced course. And
the one that, and I'm planning on taking the advanced course next year, just because I think it's always important to keep on learning, especially when it comes to this, because, you think you're a good rider until somebody with much more experience, like with way more experience than you watch as you ride from like an outside, from a third person perspective, and they'd be like, "Hey, you're doing this wrong," or and maybe it's something not wrong, but just a bad habit that they notice that you might have. That it's better to catch early on so you can.
No, it is good.
Kick it.
And I know people also can. This is getting off a little bit, but I've seen people they record like on GoPro of themselves riding, like they set it up in a parking lot, and they do that not to like make YouTube videos, but they're looking at their own technique.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah, I've
never even thought of
dedication.
Doing that.
Yeah, but no, I'm also planning
cool.
on taking the advanced course because I don't know about you, but it seems this year particularly, especially after like a few close calls, for some reason I just feel like I just don't feel like I'm as on top of like my emergency maneuver skills.
I think it's very good to keep those things like brushed up every few years. I probably
haven't been as keeping up with them as I should have been.
Yeah. And then I think they have like, I don't remember the exact name for it, but it's the get to know your bike course. So you go and take it with your bike, and they show you some more advanced, like almost like police riding techniques and stuff like that. Very low speed maneuvers, low speed like corners, turns, and figure eights and things like that. So, and it's crazy because if you ever like watched on YouTube those like competitions where they have all the police, the motorcycle cops, and those guys just throw those bikes around, and they're big bikes. They're not just like little dirt bikes or sports bikes. They're big, heavy bikes, and those guys are leaning them at like just almost flat to the ground at the lowest speed. And I'm like, that's amazing what a motorcycle can do if you like know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, like I talked to a police officer once. He was on he was a motorcycle cop. I was just asking about it and like the courses, and he says like in his job, he'd been doing it for a long, long time. It was his career. He said like the motorcycle course was the hardest course he ever took. It was like really stressful and hard to pass.
Really?
Just like because it was so technical and hands-on.
Yeah.
And like they're very strict on it though from the program he took it through.
I mean, that's good though, because I guess if you're answering a call or something on the motorcycle and you need to get to it quick, you need to be able to maneuver it through tight spots. So
and fast.
So there's a lot of places, and I remember even reading that in certain states the MSF even offers like dirt bike courses.
Oh, I did not know that, actually. I did not see that.
For dirt. And the first thing I did was check to see if Utah has an option, and then unfortunately it does not.
Of course.
Which is kind of ironic because Utah is huge with the off-road and outdoor scene, especially down south in the Moab area.
You would really think that would be in this area, but maybe we can talk about that another time, like off-road schools or...
I think that would be cool.
You go from there, but I don't know. For you, I guess, like what was your first day like?
My first day was really good. It was actually like midsummer in June, so almost it was towards the end of June. And what I remember the most is that it was actually like a little bit of an overcast day, so it was kind of nice because it wasn't like super sunny. It was actually a little bit kind of cooler outside, so it was very nice because then it warmed up very quick. And it was just like a very chill group of people. It wasn't like a full class, and I got there a little late because my timekeeping skills are abysmal. So I got stuck on the little Suzuki van pictured here. For those who are watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this, a Suzuki van, look it up. It's a very motorcycle-looking motorcycle with a very fat back tire, and it just was the dinkiest little thing. But it was a perfect bike to learn on because I could flat-foot it. It was very light and maneuverable and easy on the ground. The first gear threw me off a lot though because it was basically like you got to kick it into second almost immediately.
Oh, it was a very short gear.
Very short gear.
Oh yeah.
But and we got there, and the instructors were all very concise, very patient with everyone, and we had riders of various skill levels. And this was my first time ever on a motorcycle, like actually riding one. Like I've sat on them before, but I never actually rode a motorcycle, and I didn't know how to how to switch gears. I didn't know what the brake and the clutch were.
Yeah.
And all of that.
That was your first time like riding a motorcycle or on a
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
operating.
Yeah, operating a motorcycle was
Okay.
my first time. I've sat on plenty motorcycles before. When I was a kid, my uncle used to have my uncle back in Russia used to have a motorcycle with a sidecar, and I used to ride in that.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it wasn't a Ural, it was a Minsk, which is Belarusian. And yeah, it was pretty cool. But yeah, that was my first time ever even like turning a motorcycle on or revving it or anything like that. And yeah, the first thing, obviously, they went out, they talked about all the safety stuff, all the ground rules and stuff like that. Make sure if, where to put your feet, where all the controls are and all that stuff, how to switch gears. And then after a little bit of instruction, kind of like walking the bikes back and forth, they actually had us learn how to feather the clutch.
Nice.
A little bit.
Did for you, because I've heard of this happening, and I personally didn't witness it at mine. My dad rides, and I can't remember if he said if somebody got kicked out or not. I can't remember. So somebody told me they watched someone get kicked out because if you're not being safe, if you're not taking it seriously, instructors there are stories that they've been known to like say, hey, you're out of here, you're a safety hazard.
Yeah, and I think that's oh no, that didn't happen in mine.
Okay,
no.
Yeah. So
the craziest thing that happened in mine, it was on the final test that we had to do, and it's the one where you have to like emergency brake.
Oh,
so you speed up to what, like 15, 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, 20 miles an hour.
And hit the brakes, both front and back. One lady actually ended up locking up her front brake and like almost flew over the motorcycle.
Almost high-sided during the MSF.
Yeah.
Wow.
She almost like you could see the back wheel lift off, but she like landed it back. She still passed, but she just went like hit the brake a little too hard.
I guess she maintained control.
She maintained control, so
that's all that really matters.
That counts. Yeah.
That's really fun.
Which we were just like, oh, that's scary. And then but no, nobody kicked out. That was probably the craziest thing. And like I said, we had riders of different levels. There was one lady I remember. She had plenty of experience riding like dirt bikes and stuff, but she wanted to get into like the road bikes and street bikes and stuff. So she took that course just once, so she didn't have to take it at the DMV. Yeah, because she still didn't have like a street legal bike, so she figured and to learn about like just the do's and don'ts of street riding compared to dirt riding, because you have to watch out for other people, pay attention to the rules of the road, all the stuff that you do in the car that when riding dirt you don't really have to worry about. Yeah, and like just from my experience with the DMV and like doing like a driver's test and stuff like that, like I just feel like that adds like an unnecessary amount of stress. Absolutely, because you don't know who your tester is. Versus at the MSF, you got people who love motorcycles. They want people to ride. They want them to ride safely. And then not to say that people at the DMV aren't like that, but I mean, I just don't know. Yeah. So, like, I took my, I was glad I didn't have to do that. When I was 16 and I took my driver's test at the DMV, I literally had some old guy with like a very bushy mustache. And I think it was the end of his shift. And he was just like, I was 2 days from retirement. Yeah. He literally had me drive around the block, like do a couple of like left turns at a red light, parallel park. And it was like, all right, you pass. And that's it. I was just like, oh, cool. That took about 20 minutes. I feel totally confident and safe to be out on the road now. Yeah. It's honestly a joke. So you get like a nice good benefit. You get people who like want to teach you and they can help you improve. From there, and like, because if you fail the MSF, there's like a small fee to retake it, and then it's not a big fee. Or to retake the course. And honestly, I think it's like if you fail it, like I think it's probably a good indicator that like you're probably not ready to be out on the road, because I mean that's a dangerous machine. Motorcycles are not safe. When I remember, like for me, like when I was starting out too, like I mean, like I said, like a Honda Rebel scared me. I show up there happens to be a Rebel 300 of like the same like style, the one I want, the 500 I wanted to get. So I was like, well, that's the bike I'm getting, so I'm just a little bit bigger. So I was on a 300, and like starting out, I'm just like, oh geez. And stuff like that. I was actually positive I failed my test. Yeah, I was pulling my hair out. I was just like not okay. Was yours a 2-day course? Yeah, like a Saturday Sunday type deal. Yeah, it was a Saturday Sunday deal. Same here. And I remember on that first day when they actually like let you start riding,
Yeah.
like properly. I was just like, this feels fast. Like
Yeah.
I'm moving fast, and I'm going like 15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
On the little thumper,
I think-
but like it still feels. Once you start actually doing like the churns and stuff
Yeah.
like that, that's when you're like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah, it was really nice to actually get out and do it because like
Yeah.
what got me into riding, like I was listening to a podcast where somebody talked about riding was really good for them. And then out at my grandparents' property, they had a 4-wheeler, so I took that out, and I hadn't done that before. And I was like, oh, this is actually really fun. Maybe I should look into a motorcycle. And then it was like, boy, I didn't know what I was getting into. So,
The reason I wanted to ride is because of YouTube, and it was a YouTube channel. It was called Vaga Brothers.
Oh, yeah,
and
those
it was
guys.
2 brothers that love to travel and stuff, and they had like a 4-part series of them riding their motorcycles up the Highway 1 in California.
yeah.
A Big Sur and stuff, and I was like, wow,
Bucket.
that looked amazing.
That's a
and
bucket
from that
item.
day on, I was just like, one day I'm gonna get a motorcycle. And
Yeah.
then 3 years later, I got a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to get there, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, I had to do a whole bunch of research. It took me
Yeah.
I think I had started researching motorcycle stuff like in like mid 2019.
That's when I took my MSF.
It was 2019. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. I took mine like I think I remember it was when COVID had started to like kind of creep its way here.
Oh, so you got there just in time.
Just in time. Like
That's good.
I think it was the next week. That's when lockdown happened.
Ooh,
It was
yeah.
like because it was because when I actually had to go take the DMV test to get my license.
table.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
transfer,
sorry about that. I was
No,
hitting the
you're
table. I was I went to take the DMV test and we had to do the whole thing with COVID. Like they were letting 5 people in at a time or something. I waited in my car for like an hour and a half in the parking lot
Oh wow.
to get in. So it was.
How about you still got it?
I got
So
it.
that's
No,
good.
yeah. So I got it just in time.
Yeah, I took mine in summer of 2019, so it was almost a year before I actually got my first bike because I didn't have enough money for
Yeah.
a bike at the time. But I really wanted to see if I even enjoy riding or if I can even
Yeah.
do it. So I'm like, I'm just going to take the course. And I took it, I passed and everything. And in 2020, before COVID, I got a new job and actually had enough income
Nice.
to afford a bike. So
Yeah, for me it worked out really well. Like with COVID hitting, because then we got our stimulus checks, and that's kind of
same. That helped out a
yeah,
lot.
that helped a lot.
That's what I used to buy my gear, stimulating that economy.
Yeah, have we mentioned? Did we mention it? I don't think it would have come up with the topic we had last month for the first episode. Did we talk about how we like kind of started? Because I put a picture of my bike on, and like we had somehow bought a bike within the same week without even knowing or like talking to each other because we hadn't talked to each other for years. So like,
we knew each other, but we like didn't hang out or weren't really friends or anything like that. I just I had him on Snapchat and I saw that he bought a bike and I was like, oh, that's a cool looking bike, dude. What is it? Like, oh, it's a Honda Rebel. I was like, oh, I just got a CB500. He's like, oh, dude, I just got this too. So then we ended up riding like a month or a couple of weeks later after that.
Yeah.
And I've been riding ever since. So
Good
back to
time.
the course though, and then what was your second day experience like?
Second day was a little miserable because it was one of those weird days because I took it in March. It was first really cold and then really hot and then really cold again.
Yep,
and really
that
hot.
sounds like a Utah weather in March.
So for those 4 hours.
Yeah.
But like I said, like we went through that at the end of the second day. We took our test. I was positive I failed. Like I think at one point my foot went down during like the stop and turn practice or procedure. So I was like, no, I failed. I'm screwed. I'm failed. Even it's like, oh, I could take it again, but I was just beating myself up. And then I passed.
Yeah.
But that's not all, as you know, I've told you. Because in Utah, maybe it's elsewhere, but here in Utah, if you want to ride a bigger bike, I can't remember the exact numbers, but if you want to ride anything from like a 650 and up,
650.
you have to take a second test, the same test on a bigger bike.
On a bigger bike, something that's 650cc or higher.
Yeah, or higher.
Like,
and well, I didn't take that test because in my beginner mind, I was like, oh, 500's plenty. I'll never need more than that. Of course,
Little did you know.
Who would? And then 8 months later, I guess. But no, I get. So anyway, I was looking at my my passing stuff and the endorsements they signed off on. and maybe I shouldn't put this out to the public, but I passed, and
no one's gonna care now.
I passed. They wrote me off as passing 650, so I saved a little bit of cash, and
there you go.
I didn't have
That's
to
very nice.
almost fail the test again.
With my second day experience, so we went through the motions, and there was a lot more like less learning and more just drills. I remember doing like the different maneuvers, the different parts of the test before actually taking the test at the end of the day. And I was pretty confident that I passed in the first one because I never put my foot down. I think I did most of the things right. I don't remember my exact score. And then it was time to retake it on the 650 cc. And for those that are watching, you saw the bike that I was on during my MSF, the little Suzuki Van. Well, it's a small bike that's close to the ground and that I can put my feet down on. And they put me on a Suzuki DRZ 650 for my 650cc test, which, if you're not familiar with how that bike looks, it sits like a mile off the ground.
Yeah.
It's tall. I can't even throw my foot over it, and I'm 6'1".
It's a very intimidating bike.
It's a very intimidating bike for a new rider, and especially if you need to do the figure 8 and lean it over. Oh, you're high off the ground, and that's a little scary.
A little sketch.
And I remember putting my foot down, and after I finished, the guy told me that I did not pass. I was like, well, darn it. Guess I'll just have to come back and retake it in a couple of weeks or something. But then I talked to like the head coach, and it's just like, oh yeah, too bad I didn't pass. He was like, oh, what do you mean you didn't pass it? And I was like, oh yeah, the guy said I didn't get enough points or got too many points knocked off. He's like, oh, let me see this. And he like took a look at the paper, and he's like, what? He's like, what bike did they put you on? I was like, oh, it was that big tall Suzuki over there. And he's just like, why'd they put you on that? He's like, you know what? I think you did good. And he just barked me off as passing and signed it off. So I was like, I'm not going to argue with that.
No, yeah.
I'll just take it.
Works, yeah.
Because I too very quickly outgrew my 500cc bike.
Yeah, it was a good. If you're in Utah or if your state has the similar rules, just take the bigger test.
Yeah, just
honestly.
do it. It'll just save you so much.
Don't bank on being as lucky as I did that day.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Or
did you feel? Go ahead.
Or you can just not take it. No, just kidding.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Did you feel ready or safe? Like, did you feel like you were safe when you took past when they passed you?
No.
Okay.
No, I feel like, and this is kind of like we said, we're going to talk about like, maybe improvements and things like that, or things that we liked and disliked. But that's kind of like one of the things. It's kind of like if you're listening from another country, to get a driver's license in America, it's dead easy. And to get a motorcycle endorsement, it was also very easy. And I remember either reading on Reddit or like seeing online the kind of tests and schooling you have to do to get motorcycle endorsement in like Europe or even Canada and things like that. Oh, it is way, way harder. You're talking like month or two of schooling, of various tests, various like scenarios and speeds and everything. They go through all of these kinds of motions and things like that, and that's not even going to give you full access to like the biggest bikes.
Right.
It gives you like the A1 license, I think in Europe that's what they call it.
Yeah,
or something
there's
like
A1
that.
and A2.
Yeah, and
Start out with one's bigger than the other.
Yeah, so one you're only limited to like 300cc bikes or like something very low, and then once you get enough of riding hours, you can apply or you can test for the higher license until
and that reminds me
higher
of
one.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me of when I was doing my research. I wasn't sure if this was going to come up at all, but for Americans, so once you have if you take the MSF and your license in the U.S., to ride in Europe, you have to get, I think it was called an IPD. You need to get a independent driving permit.
Oh.
Supposedly they're easy to get and they're cheap, but like
is that if you're moving to live there or if you're just visiting to drive
that
there?
Like if you're going to tour or like I didn't look into if you need to actually get their A1 or go through their course to get.
I would assume if you're going to be there resident, temporary.
Yeah,
if you're temporary, I don't think you have to. But I think if you're permanently there, then obviously you have to get like a local driver's license, and I don't know what that entails.
And I happened across the Army's website, like not the recruiting page, but the U.S. Army says like, if you're going to be stationed in Europe and ride a motorcycle, then you have to get they recommended getting a Belgian license. I don't know. So,
Okay.
but,
There you go. If you need that information for the future.
Yeah, so it's like, so I guess if you're trying to go over there to ride, you'd have to get that, and I think having that license or the MSF training and your motorcycle license in the U.S., that's going to make it easier, and also you'll know how to ride.
Yeah, I think that's probably like regardless of what you're planning on doing, I think MSF is just a very good thing to take. Yeah. But like back to your question of did I feel safe going out on the road? When I got my bike, I didn't even ride it from the dealership. I had my friend, one of my friends and I, we borrowed a trailer from his dad and towed it back up on the trailer because I was like, there's no way I am ready to ride on the freeway for like 40 minutes from Salt Lake because that sounds terrifying. If you're going to be from Salt Lake too, you don't want to be on the freeway on your first.
No. On the highway, I should say.
Yeah. And, so we drove up, and then like later that day, I just rode around the neighborhoods, and I probably just stuck to the neighborhoods for a good like couple of weeks before finally heading out to the freeway, which was nerve-wracking at first, especially when you have a semi passing you. It's absolutely scary.
Yeah, no, it's eye-opening. I was the same way. I didn't ride mine home. Like I bought it brand new because I was having car troubles at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with used vehicles. I'm buying 0 miles.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to take that shiny new bike home with having no riding experience other than the MSF. And the guy, sales guy, he was cool, and he was just like, "Hey, you'd be fine. You can take it." And it's like, no. I was like, okay, well, we'll. They arranged delivery, so they actually dropped my bike off to me.
That's very cool.
The same guy, actually. He it wasn't like one of their texts or whatever. He pulls up and
that's very nice.
Hands me the keys. Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. I wasn't ready though either. I probably spent a few weeks to a month just riding around the neighborhood. And I found like an empty church parking lot, which if you live in Utah,
they're everywhere.
Plenty of those everywhere.
Hard to find.
Yeah. So I was just practicing an empty parking lot, riding around the neighborhood, and then I finally decided to go to a coffee shop on the bike, and that was actually really cool. The freeway was terrifying though.
Yeah,
the first time I did do that was like 2 months later.
Yeah,
it's
probably when we actually started riding.
I think so. I think I had ridden up to my parents at one point. Yeah. That's what it was, and I was just like I was in my head coming up on the ramp, in this little 500, and I just
scary. It was when you have those giant semis and like pickup trucks and stuff passing near you.
It was really nice at first.
Very terrifying.
So I was like in my head, I was scared, like I said, and I got on that ramp and I just gunned it. And luckily, it happened to be like a summer Sunday morning.
So not very busy.
It was empty, honestly, at first.
Very nice.
And so I gunned it and got that thing going. And I was just like I was terrified after I started doing that. I was terrified for maybe like 5 seconds, 2 seconds, and I was like, oh, I love this. So.
My first time on the freeway was between Mountain Green and Morgan.
Oh yeah.
So lots of semis and stuff there, but less traffic, so it's kind of nice still. And okay, so with all that, I think that brings me to saying like that's probably one of the biggest things that I think I wouldn't mind seeing improved is that maybe making the course a little more challenging, a little longer and stuff, because 2 days is not a lot to learn. And I know it's like the basics, but it's still, you're pretty much told like, all right, you're ready to go ride out on all the big roads and on whatever bike you want, depending on which test you passed and license you got. And I'm just like, okay. But I guess like, if you're a smart person, if you're value your life, you slowly step up to the harder roads and stuff like that. So it wouldn't be I agree. And sometimes I think if maybe maybe they could do something like because some people do grow up with motorcycles, dirt bikes and stuff like that. So they know how to operate a motorcycle. So they could just offer like a road course or something. Yeah. Versus for me and you, we knew nothing really about them. Yeah. So you start from square one. This is a brake. This is a throttle. And move into it. Maybe you could offer another course like that. But definitely I think extending them. I still feel like maybe Europe and because I'm not used to that stuff. I think that's a little invasive. It seems like very challenging. It seems like a lot, but maybe it makes for better riders or better drivers. Because I've heard like depending on the country in Europe, for example, like in Russia and stuff. it takes like a few months to even get a driver's license because you gotta drive in a simulator even before they even get you out on the main road and stuff. Here I went to like I went to 2 weeks of like the A1 driving school, and then took a test at the DMV, and they're like, all right, you're ready to drive, here you go. I'm just like, all right, good luck, let's pray about it maybe.
So I think it'd be like nice if they did increase it a little bit just for safety, but
maybe not Europe level, but just a little better.
And maybe not even so much like, I think the MSF training itself is really good. I just think it's like how you're just given free reign. And this isn't on the MSF. This is just, it is what it is. You know, like, you get that piece of paper and you're off, you know? Like if maybe there was some type of like waiting period, or you had to get so many hours or something. You know, but,
kind of like if you start driving at like 16, you can't have other people in the car with you.
You could have like some requirements.
For 6 months or something.
You could have some requirements.
I think that's a good like middle ground kind of deal. And I think it'd be kind of nice if they touched a little bit more on like high speed or highway riding and things like that. Especially because, you know, where we live here, it is, I mean, you're not getting anywhere without getting on the highway.
Right.
Or on a very high speed limit road.
And I
think I would have just liked to see them touch up a little bit more and maybe have them some kind of like simulated drills of riding in traffic around other like big cars and things like that. I think, just, or something along those lines. I don't know. I don't design courses.
So we were like kind of, you know, talking about this episode, how we're going to record this and talk about it and stuff. And I was thinking about it. It's like, I think some like free reign, you know, like pedal to the metal, like the second you get that paper, you know, it's like a little, like, I don't know how I feel about that really. But at the same time, like I do want to emphasize like the instruction from the instruction from the instructors. It was very good.
That's what I liked. One of my favorite parts is the fact that all of my instructors, they were very patient. They were very ready to like answer people's questions, and they were very observant. So they were very on point of telling you like, hey, you're doing this wrong. Hey, keep your eyes up. Don't look at that was my big thing is like I kept looking at the ground when I'm stopping and stuff, but they were like, eyes forward, eyes always, you know, look to see where you're going.
No, same.
And they were just always very on point about what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. They were very supportive and just overall like very good people. So
no, they were like, and they
make motorcycling feel like approachable and welcoming and things like that, instead of this like scary thing for hardcore people that that just want to like ride there.
They want to cause like so, but no, I had a really good time actually. It was a lot of fun. The instructors were great, and they really honed in. It's like, you're not done. Like, you have to keep practicing, practice. Like, I don't want maybe saying like you have free reign, you're off on to go. It's like maybe that's not giving people enough credit or anything, but it is up to the individual rider to maintain their practicing, which I think personally I feel like I've lacked on this year.
I've lacked on a little bit this year. We had some long rides though.
We did.
Year.
Yeah. Actually, we did get to use emergency braking with those elk in Colorado. So
that's true.
It saved us.
It did. We remember our training, but I think the biggest thing I personally can improve on is just a lot of like the low speed maneuvers and things like that.
Same.
And I really want to take a proper off-road riding course, because I had my little tumble back back during the summer, which I didn't get hurt, and the bike just got scratched a little bit, which is, I mean, it wasn't anything bad, but I'm like, I don't want that to happen again, or minimize the risk of happening again. So I think just in general, I guess the biggest advice I can give from this episode is, you know, continuing to practice is always a good idea.
And there's like one YouTube channel I was watching like religiously, like when I was first started riding. Is what's his name? Dan the Fireman on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I heard of him.
Yeah, he's a firefighter. He does reviews of crashes. He has his own like list of like patterns and stuff to look for. Of just like how to be a safe rider, basically. I think he is an MSF instructor as well. I don't know, but he's, you know, there's a lot of good information out there for you to continue being a good rider. But yeah, starting out though, there was a good period where I was a little overwhelmed.
It does feel, especially looking at all the buttons and
I just
everything
saw
like that, and how to
Yeah.
shift gears. That was the toughest thing for me. It was like, especially that first to second gear, because when you're first starting, it feels like there's so many steps, like, clutch in, let go of throttle, like pick up gear, like clutch out. Or, like,
I did remember one thought I did have, like when I was thinking, like, what else could they do? Because one thing that freaked me out the first time was riding in rain with a wet road.
Oh,
so I don't know if you could fit this in, but if they could get like a garden hose and spray down a part of the parking lot and you have to ride through it, just to like, hey, like
just to feel,
just to like,
I like that,
because I mean tires are really good, bikes are really good riding, but I just think it'd be good for like a beginner to at least have like that initial experience to like, okay, your tires touching something wet.
Yeah. It's kind of like taking your car out to a church parking lot in the winter and doing some donuts.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how it feels.
Yeah.
So then you know.
Because I think in a controlled environment, that would have been a better place for me personally to like to know like what a wet bike feels like.
My first rain riding experience was a full-on thunderstorm on the freeway, and it was absolutely terrifying. Especially when you have semis passing you and the giant mist kicks in, you can't see shit, and it's like, whew, I made it home.
Yeah,
I was freezing.
Was that the place to learn it? Like you learned?
I learned very well, but I preferably wouldn't have not liked to learn it there. But it was kind of my fault because I just went right now to far away, and then it ended up raining. So I was like, well, I got to get home somehow. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, I think that was about all I had on like thoughts anyway about like what else could be different. Just it's not criticism. It's just thoughts I've had. And
it's a super great program, like you said.
It really was. So.
I'm excited to take the advanced course.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying to decide if I want to do the advanced course this year or if I want to try and find like an off-road clinic.
I was basically trying to do the same thing. So
maybe we can talk about off-road clinics down the road or something.
If you end up finding one, that'd be really
cool.
Actually pretty cool
too. So
let's talk about after.
But the MSF, like we said, like just really they've done like a lot of good research and stuff from there, and not just for motorcyclists. I don't know if you saw it on the notes here. But they also provide education for non-motorcyclists.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
And I have that right here. They have like the 5 or 6 steps, 5, I think. Let's see. Please look out for motorcyclists. Focus on driving. Use your turn signals. Give two-wheelers some room and keep it in the car, so don't throw stuff out your windows. I did have teenagers. I was in my first few months of riding, some teenagers, like they pulled up when I was at an intersection at a stoplight, and they like popped like one of those like pull string, not a firework, but like confetti things. One, I was very mad, but I was on a 500, so I couldn't catch them, and I wasn't about to go chase them. But
don't chase cars.
Don't do that. Don't chase cars.
You'll lose.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything that
I think so. Other than that, like everything that I've learned in the MSF from the beginner's course, on top of my practicing and like just my own like how to be a safer rider. Like while I was in that first year of riding, I think I've used every one of those skills.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I've had some close calls.
Yeah,
and
I think the biggest skills I always remind myself is like the low speed maneuvers.
Yep,
and to keep my eyes up.
Yep,
not look down.
That I still need to work.
It's so hard.
I need to get better.
It's so hard to do so.
You just got to do it all the time.
It's like it's like human instinct to look at like the danger, and if you're like stopping or something, you get so fixated on it.
The thing that in slow speed maneuvers, the thing that always trips me up, and I really want to be good at them, is the figure eights.
Yeah,
I think because that was one of the things like where I felt like why I failed. So I was like, no, I have to like. So it's a dream of mine to master the figure eight.
Well, once winter is over.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. So,
anyways,
I think that's about all we really had to say for our experiences and just to like kind of give some people who are curious about the MSF some information.
If you're watching this on YouTube and you've taken an MSF course or planning on to, feel free to let us know in the comments about your experience, or if you have any questions for us about the courses or just motorcycles in general. And if you're listening on Spotify, or if you're listening to this, you can email us your questions and comments over at tdtmotorcycles@gmail.com. And that's where you can find us. And if you have topic suggestions and everything like that, you can also find us or feel free to email us or comment.
I'm actually curious. You know,
like that.
Let us know if we've got something wrong or if we didn't elaborate on something.
You know, if we didn't mention something right, definitely correct us. We'll acknowledge you in the next episode because we want our information to be as accurate as we can. Mm-hmm. We can make it, and sometimes we may mislook it or something. So if you have corrections, let us know. Let us know about your experience.
But yeah, other than that, just thanks for the people who've listened to our first episode. It was really cool to see us getting some listens, and yeah, we really appreciate it. So keep it coming, and we'll get back to you over email or on the comments.
Yep, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Have
a good one.